And now we're going to move on to our Storyburgh panel that we're very excited to have. All day we've been considering personal stories of mental health, and now we come to Storyburgh, a nonprofit community storytelling platform. Its mission is to give voice to marginalized populations. Today we have Mary Beth Spang, who is the mental health editor, and Will Halim, who is the founding director of Storyburgh. Let's give them a welcome round of applause.
Thank you all, especially Staunton Farm, who's funding this event, and Jennifer Jordan, who's unfortunately sick today. Thank you to Andy Conti, where is he? So, all right, and Point Park. So we are a non-for-profit community storytelling platform. So this is our missions. My name is Will Halim. I'm the founding director of this platform. We've been working on this since late 2015, and the goal is to share the stories of Pittsburghers. We're not really interested in the stories of the power of the people with titles. We want stories from you. We want stories from the community members. We want stories for people with lived experiences. So currently we have four programs, I must say, that we group our works in. The first one that we just rolled out, call it the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone, is to bring people together that might otherwise not be in each other's presence through their own authentic stories that might otherwise go unheard by audiences that might never hear them, right? So if people are pissed off at each other, go to DMZ. And probably you can share your stories, right? And then the second one is the collector's item. So it's about sharing Pittsburgh's past. Other stories, places, activities, ideas, the things that might have been forgotten. And brings us to this one, Bridging Your Mind, which what we are going to present, is to reduce stigma. And I'm quoting this from NAMI. It's important for people living with mental health conditions to know that they are not alone. Sharing a story about your mental health challenges can help in your own recovery, as well as offer encouragement and support to others with similar experiences. Sharing your story also helps promote understanding and empathy to those without mental illnesses. And the last one is the Heartbeat PGH. It's basically to know more of your diverse neighbors in various Pittsburgh neighborhoods. There's a saying that we don't go across bridges here, so I think we need to change that, right? By doing that, we share stories first through online stories, and then we have live in-person storytelling, and hopefully people will cross bridges and hear each other's stories. So that brings me to this slide.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Spang. I am, as Will said, the editor for the Bridging Your Mind mental health column on Storyburgh. I'm also a second-year PsyD student at Carlow University, so it's a doctorate of psychology student, so I'm an aspiring psychologist. I've also worked in the field of mental health for about 5 years since getting my master's degree in human development and psychology, and I've worked in inpatient settings as an outpatient community-based therapist, and currently as a clinician at Pittsburgh Mercy Behavioral Health. So right now I have, those couple different titles within the realm of mental health, like editor, student, and I guess mental health professional as well. But what originally led me to all that was my identity as an individual living with mental illness. I have a diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD for short, and I found a lot of power in my own healing and my own processing in sharing stories. So I come to this role with Storyburgh kind of from the perspective of, an individual who shares stories like this regularly and finds it helpful from a treatment perspective, and also a mental health professional who encourages this as a way of coping and a means of processing and a means of reducing the overall general stigma of mental health, and in the local to the Pittsburgh area, but also really all across the country, because this is a bigger issue than just what we have here. So if you are interested in sharing your story, I definitely encourage you to reach out. We have a number of different ways that you can share, so it doesn't have to be speaking, it doesn't have to be writing like an essay, it can be poetry, it can be drawing, it can be through photographs, through videos, and it also can be from the lived experience of not necessarily someone living with mental illness, but if you're a parent or a child of, or a sibling of, or a friend, really any perspective that sheds light on what it's like to, be a part of this community and exist in the world with mental illness is really, really important to share. And so this QR code, I think, takes you right to the Bridging Your Mind page, which then if you scroll to the bottom, there's a way to submit your story. And then if we go to the next slide, also, this is an example of an event that we did last year, I think in October. And again, this was a speaking event, although some people were on screens as well. Some people were in person speaking and sharing their stories, and some people were on screens virtually sharing their stories. And again, there were a number of us sharing from the perspective of an individual with mental illness. There was someone who was also a mental health professional, someone else who shared from the perspective of being a child of someone with mental illness, and someone else who shared from the perspective of being a parent with someone with mental illness and what it was like sort of going through the diagnosis process and figuring out what that means and what treatment might look like and all the changes that come with that. So that's an example of an event that we did last year. And pass back to Will.
So,
yeah, so we're going to share an example of someone who did share his story via Storyburgh, and this is actually via audio recordings. And we just wanted to give a general trigger warning because there is some content discussed in here that could be triggering for somebody. So if you need to talk afterwards and process, we're here, as well as a number of resources. If you need to ask us and talk to a process about afterwards, just putting out there, if you need to step out too, that's totally okay. Just take care of yourselves.
Yeah, so this is by Jason Lada. It's a family friend of ours, mine and my spouse. And we've known him for a long time, since college. And he wanted to share his stories. It's actually, I forgot the name of the program. It's 30 days. So, and we like to make it easy, and there's no a deadline driven. So it's hey Jason, whenever you want to leave a message, just leave us a voicemail. So, and that's what he did. So every time when he woke up, he just called us on a special number. So we didn't bring our cell phones. Sometimes he left it at 3 a.m., sometimes at 7 a.m., sometimes anytime that he wanted, and then he just called in and leave his story.
I'm Jason. I was born in Germany to two loving parents, and then divorced, so I went to Huntsville, Alabama with my mom. She raised me. She raised me pretty well, except she yelled some. And then I went as far away as I could to Caltech, studied physics, and then I changed my mind because it was so difficult. First time in my life, something was difficult. So I went to Stanford, got an English degree, thought I'd write, ended up working a tech job, bought my Microsoft. After a couple of years, I sold all my stock and went driving across the country to see my friends. I've never felt more free in my entire life. Then I ended up in Nashville and things got bad. And then I went north, and things got worse. So I went to Denver, and I worked at the coolest book and music shop you can imagine for 5 years until I screwed that up too. Then I went to my mom in California. She was sober after so many years of drinking, and I was close to her. I was near her. I dialed 911 when she couldn't breathe. It was like I added time to how much time I could spend with her, and I spent 10 years. And and then she died. So I was free again, but it wasn't the kind of free that I wanted. So I moved to Tucson, where I knew a friend, and here's where I am right now.
So that was the beginning of COVID, so it's in 2020, and he's still living in Tucson. So he still exchanges messages, WhatsApp or short messages system, every once or twice a day. So it depends on his mood. So we are kind of his support as well, because he receives fixed income from the government, so he has a lot of issues. And this is one of the things that he does that he did 2 years ago that I think he's still benefiting. So there are 30 days. I'm not going to play everything, and I'm going to skip to the day 26.
I've been really depressed for about 10 days. I don't have energy. I feel numb. Been watching a lot of Netflix, just passing the time. It's just something to do besides laying down. I don't have energy for anything. Instead, I just laid down for 4.5 hours, didn't sleep, just lay there. And it's all I want to do now. Maybe watching stuff makes me more numb. I don't know. I'm already not feeling anything, already not caring about anything. I just want the days to be over. Sleep is the only thing that seems like a relief. And I want to get stuff done. I want to do things, and I just can't. And I know it's only supposed to last for so long at a time, this depression, but it just keeps going on, and it's hard to remember. It's hard to remember that I can get through this, because it just doesn't feel like I have anything in myself left inside me.
So that was day 26. So between day 1 and 26, it was up and down. It was a roller coaster for him. But unfortunately, after day 26, the voicemail stopped for 10 days. And then he called us back after 10 days, and then he was okay, right? But the point I'm telling this that this is not for publication. This is we're doing this not just to get content, but this is for him, and this is for those who think that they will benefit from sharing. And let me play his conclusion.
Since I've started this, I've had a chance to review so many memories that hurt, and I went through depression for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't tell which way was up. And through recording these, I've just come to believe that I'm more than the sum of the parts of my past, that I'm more complex than I thought, that by continuing to examine myself, by continuing to try to push down my ego and embrace hope, greater power, be led instead of leading, I might find something more. I'm not sure how this works. I go to NA and I listen to people, and I still have much to do with regards to that. I'm still trying new drugs from my depression. But there are things that keep me sane, my friends, and this whole process has really helped me too. And so that's all for now.
I can share that he's been sober ever since. And let me play. There's a message from Nami.
One in 6 youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health condition each year, and 50% of youth don't get treatment. We want to end the silence, so you're not afraid to speak up.
Mental health is health.
Know the signs.
Know you are not alone.
Know that people care.
And that we all have the power to end the silence.
For more resources, you can always go to NAMI.org.
So I loved seeing that video in conjunction with Jason's story. I think it's a really beautiful story. It's not something that's sort of told for the purpose of entertaining. It's really authentic. It's really his authentic processing each day for 30 plus days. And I think it benefited him in a way that was reflective and will ultimately, hopefully, the next time or times that he's feeling similarly will hopefully give him some sort of insight into what to do to make himself feel better in those moments. I also think that a story like that provides a very authentic description of what it's like to be suffering from a mood disorder or depression. Which, again, one of the things that he comes to at the end of that piece is it's a temporary state, right? It's a temporary state that we move through, and we do move through it, and it goes away eventually. So what do we do while it's here? And I think what's important about him sharing that is that not everybody knows what that looks like. Not everybody knows what it feels like and looks like to be depressed, whether or not they've experienced it. We don't always necessarily have the language to talk about that experience. And so I think the more people who share stories about what it's like to live with some of these illnesses, especially the illnesses that are still very stigmatized and sort of underrepresented, but that are in existence, and we need to hear those stories, right? And this is why, because we need to develop language around these things and coping strategies for these things, and sort of empathy for each other in this regard. So I really like Jason's story for that reason, and again, it's part of why I'm very passionate about encouraging others to share stories. So another QR code on the screen. What we did was create a Google form with each of the 7 NAMI recommendations for sharing your story. So it's basically just asks each question, introduce yourself, what happened, what helped, and you answer each one in the Google form, just to kind of get you started as a way of thinking about a story you might tell, or if you would want to share a story. It's not something you even necessarily have to submit right away to us. You can take your time with it and think about it and reflect on it, and maybe share in the future, maybe not. Writing is often just a personal process for ourselves too, and that's great also.
I must add that not all 7 questions have to be answered, and in addition that this is a Google Doc form, so in that Google Doc form I also have options available for the writer to be anonymous, or you may also use pseudonyms. So it's really up to you. Again, the service is for you guys.